in politics, the field has not really been that even. Young people don't have as much space to speak or to be part of institutions where decisions are being made. May that be in the national level or in the local level. But as young people, we really want to assert that we deserve space, no matter how small may that be, so that we can put forward our proposals for issues, especially those that really matter to us.
Regardless of whether you're young or old, so regardless of your age, I think the expectation of anyone walking into politics is very similar, which is expecting to create a better change for the country. It's probably not healthy for any political party to see themselves as representing any one generation. Right? So I think when you come back to that fundamental question of why political parties exist, you realize that the agenda that each party is driving, although maybe on different ideologies across the spectrum, must be to create a better society for all generations, not just for one.
There's not many female young politicians yet in Indonesia. I don't know in Thailand, but that's the case because our patriarchy culture is still really strong. But in reality, it's not that bad anymore. You know, it really surprised me that it has changed. I am pretty sure that this is also the case in most countries where old political parties, they realize that this is the time where they have to be friends with, us, younger generation. Otherwise, they could be irrelevant.
In different countries.
These young political leaders in ASEAN enter politics with certain expectations and the challenges which face them as the younger generation of politicians in their countries. For them, age is not the real challenge. They have found ways to communicate with different generations. The ideology is, however, more complicated to navigate.
I mean, it's normal in a democratic society that people will have different views of what society should be like. Sometimes the ideal version of society of younger generations are very different and increasingly different to the ideal version of society that older generations may wish to see.
When we talk to the ordinary citizens, it is actually easier to build connections and find unities because we may not agree on all issues under the sun, but as long as we find one common issue, then we can already form connections, have activities that we can conduct together. After we get elected and we are now dealing with people who, of course, have their own opinions, then, yeah, it's difficult.
I realized that one of the ways to gain respect from your fellow MPs is just to have the data and not to talk nonsense. When we offer them, breakthrough or new ideas, as long as we have the right arguments and the right laws and regulations to back it up, they will accept our policy proposals and is willing to back it up.
The old generation, they used to work with our parents, and we are like their children. The way to overturn this mindset is to show your capacity, work with efficiency, and respect the rule.
Channel is of course, important to understand which channel will reach which age group. But for me, I think content is key. Right? At the end of the day, it's about what are the issues that you're talking to them with. Of course, there are certain difficult conversations that are often have to be made between all generations. So our certain policies that we develop or certain stances that we take are sometimes much more popular with certain generations than others.
There is a proposal.
Regardless of age, ideology, or from which side of the political spectrum they come, these young politicians see issues in their countries that need change, and multilateral agreements and cooperation amongst international communities can help improve their countries and society more sustainably.
By bilateral relation and also the multi relationship give us the benefit, because in terms of the diplomatic, we don't talk about the enemy, but we talk about the benefits, the interests.
I really hope that when the ASEAN chairmanship and the ASEAN event will be held in Indonesia next year, we can have more discussion on how the transfer of knowledge from the more developed nations such as Singapore and Malaysia in ASEAN could benefit the other ASEAN members. So I really hope the discussion next year would be more practical and would answer to a lot of the problems that I can sense that Philippines is facing the same problems, exactly the same problems that we're facing in Indonesia.
International community can also be a way, as my fellow youth leader from Thailand has mentioned, how we can put a spotlight on issues that cannot easily be resolved within countries. Though, of course, that doesn't mean that we give up our sovereignty, but it's just a way for us to find common problems or find insights from our neighbors so that we can improve our local situation.
Besides the domestic issue, global agendas such as climate change, aging societies, and human rights are also something in which international cooperation can be a big help.
The environment and climate change. I mean, I think this is a classic case of a problem that cannot be solved by one country alone, but requires the cooperation of not just countries in the region, but across the whole world. The second one, I think, is the crisis of aging society. I mean, we in Thailand know that we are facing an aging society where the share of working age population is decreasing, right? And that poses a big fiscal constraint on our country's economy. At the end of the day, like, we cannot get away from also trying to increase working age population from foreign labor and foreign workers to work in Thailand more, right? So that requires international cooperation on mobility and ensuring that there are fewer restrictions in terms of moving and working between different countries, especially in ASEAN, right? And then I think the third one is tied to the point that I think many of us made earlier, which is how do we together as a region, I guess, stand up for common values on democracy and human rights. I mean, we see that issue of free speech is an issue that is currently being faced by not just Thailand, not just the Philippines, but many countries in ASEAN. So how do we together help stand for these values and hold other governments accountable?
And I would like
ทูลิปหน้าสมภพเปล่า reporting for Thai PBS World